Villagers, thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. Wonders they say shall never cease to happen in Africa. This is the only continent that other people will sit there and claim ownership over everything, including with the human beings that are here. After Niger, are all in all, our savior, protector, the unifier, the messiah, the king of kings, the most loved, General Assimi Goïta kicked out the French. They are not knowing peace because we've seen that France is not in good shape. So for that matter, they are doing everything possible to find means and ways to get back into the continent and to claim certain things because they want to save their economy. A disturbing and explosive development is unfolding in the Sahel. French prosecutors in Paris have opened an investigation into missing uranium in Niger, raising serious questions about accountability, exploitation, and decades of hidden arrangements. As Niger reclaims its sovereignty and challenges foreign controls over its resources, this case could expose what has long been kept in the shadows. What really happened to Niger's uranium? And who stands to lose if the truth comes out? Paris prosecutor opens investigation into missing uranium in Niger. A Paris prosecutor has opened a probe into organized gang theft in the interest of a foreign power after uranium went missing from a site in Niger previously operated by French nuclear group Orano. Uranium has been at the center of a standoff between Orano, formerly Arava, and the Nigerian authorities since the military junta seized power in a coup in July 2023. Sumaya, a subsidiary of Orano, operated the deposit in Arilift in northern Niger until June 2024 when it was nationalized by the military leader. At the end of November, the Orano group warned in a statement that a shipment had left the Arilift mining site where 1,300 tons of uranium were stockpiled. Orano points out to a court ruling in September that deemed the site of Niger has no right to sell, transfer or facilitate the transfer of uranium produced by Somaya, 64.4% of which was owned by Orano prior to nationalization.
The French regime is decidedly wrong about the period. To believe that Emmanuel Macron considers that Niger is still under colonial rule. Otherwise how? Deny to our country its right to put its uranium on the international market. How to accuse Niger of stealing its own uranium, with which his basement has him. It is certainly there from France. Paternalistic, again, an act of arrogance. But Niger, in the name of its assumed sovereignty, does not intend to let it happen. Comment by Abdullah in Bamako, where he takes part in the preparations for the second U.S. summit. This is the story of the who cries out to the. Here it is, as if one beautiful morning, someone was showing up at your home, and without even screaming, would claim all your possessions, claiming that it would be his personal property. This is exactly what France is doing today in Niger. In one case, that it has the other guarantee of uranium and organized gang. What nerve. And yet early December, the French press itself had seemed to recognize in Niger its right to put its uranium on the international market in compliance with the rules of the market, and then for a few days, change of language elements of the same French press. I quote again, flight of 1,000 T of uranium. Paris raises its voice and opens fin de citation. Surely there is still something wrong, because we cannot say one thing, and its opposite at the same time. But the aberrations of France's African policy do not surprise anyone anymore. Worse, they will only repeat themselves. For the greatest discredit on the Élysée, and this as long as the arrogance persists, and the paternalism of the former colonial power, the antipodes of and legitimate inspirations of the Sahelian peoples. In all cases, Niger intends to give itself the means of law in this uranium file to bring about a successful, its legitimate demands.
Why is it that these people will not just let us be? Because they know very well that now we are reclaiming our sovereignty and deciding that enough is enough. But they also need to continue to be looting Africa. They are not hiding. Everything of theirs is now broad daylight because they keep on accusing Russia of being the reason to which they are no longer having their influence in Niger. And why should we even accuse people of theft? How can we steal our own thing? It doesn't make sense. But this is how always these people always play their games on Africans, trying to make it look as if we are rather stealing our own things. But they are rather coming, taking them away in order to safeguard the resources because this is how I see whatever that they are doing. The current complaint dates back to 18th August, before the start of uranium transport. The Paris Prosecutor Office confirmed to RF1. In November, during a visit to northern Niger, the head of the military, General Abdurrahman Chiani, stated his intention to sell the Sumaya uranium, considering that it now belonged to the Nigerian people. He defended Niger's legitimate right to dispose of its natural wealth, to sell it to whoever wishes to buy it under market rules in full independence, adding that Niger was turning to a new partner such as Iran or Russia. In July, Moscow said it intended to exploit Nigerian uranium. Russian energy minister, accompanied by representatives of Russian uranium industry giant, has visited Niamey to discuss development and partnership in the oil and mining sector. According to One Maps, a group of West Africa journalists specializing in security news in the Sahel, 1,000 tons of non-enriched uranium are said to have left Aleph, with the first part of the convoy, 34 lorries, parked in early December near Niamey Airport. AFP has confirmed that 34 lorries arrived in an area of the airport between 3 and 5 December, with satellite image confirming the vehicles were still there on 18th December. OneUps claimed the second part of the convoy arrived in Niamey on 4th December, and convoy is expected to travel to the port of Lomé in Togo via Burkina Faso. Orano told AFP it did not know the quantity of uranium concerned, the destination or the identity of any potential buyers. The group said, however, that it could from stock stored at the Sumaya mining site, produced where Orano was still the operator, a stock of nearly 1,600 tons of mineral concentrates with a market value of nearly $310 million. Niger is the world's 7th largest producer of uranium, used to make nuclear fuel and equipment for treating cancer. France, which relies on nuclear power for 70% of its electricity, sourced about 15% of its uranium from Niger when the West African nation mines were in full operation. How on earth can these people still be claiming ownership over things that are here in Africa? Because they believe that these things were taken away from them and they have every right to sue us. But all in all, General Abdurrahman Chiani told us that as long as we are not on the jurisdiction of Europe, anything of theirs, any law of theirs do not apply to us. So they can continue to sue whatever of Niger. They don't just care because they believe that this is Africa and we have our rules and regulations, and they believe that anything outside of our continent doesn't apply to us. Besides, what we are talking about belongs to the people of Africa, and for that matter, we have a say of this uranium. France can no longer just be alone because majority of whatever they are getting is coming from Africa. And now that Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso decided to throw them out, they are feeling the heat because, like one time somebody said, they do not have any plan B. All that they know is forever and ever they will continue to get the resources cheap from Africa, and the plans that they have laid out will continue to be the way it is forever and ever, forgetting that a time will come where Africans will also rise up to fight against this injustice, because we are asking questions about why we have all these resources yet we are suffering. So Africans are also looking for solutions to their own problems, and we believe that if truly we want to solve the problems of Africa, then we need to have total control over the resources of Africa. And that is why these people are doing everything possible to make sure that they continue to leave us with leaders that will always do their bid and to serve their interests. So today, as Africans, we are all suffering, and these are the same people who will turn around and point fingers at our leaders and tell us the leaders are the problem of Africa because the leaders are not serving our interests. They keep looting us, they are corrupt. Yet, like Dr. Arikana will ask one time, that when they now rob, where does it end? Because it takes two to tango. But finally, we have leaders that are claiming the narrative of the African and taking control over everything, and that is what matters. We don't just want to hear anybody saying everything in Africa is for me. No. So today we are seeing that the power is taken away from France in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, and France is bent on doing everything, because this is not the first time they decided to sue Niger, but Niger, our leader, is always saying that this is Africa, and whatever decision they decide doesn't apply, because a cockroach can never be innocent in the midst of fowl. And this is what they have been doing to us every time, but now we are also fighting back and pushing hard to make sure that we take our total sovereignty into our own hands. Enough is enough, and that is the slogan of the African, that we are no longer looking for masters. Enough of being puppets. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world, in Europe and in France.